So I hope that you all enjoy the session today and you all get something out of it. So I'm going to share my screen and start the presentation. So, as you already know, we're going to be exploring sustainable food education in primary schools today with us, the Energy Heroes, and with our guest speakers that have introduced themselves. So I'm going to start off by just showing you a few statements and about why food education is important and why change is needed in schools. These statements might be true or they might be false. As I'm screen sharing, I can't see what all your faces and stuff. So I'm just going to ask you to shout out. Doesn't matter if you shout over each other, but whether you think that these statements are true or false. So the first statement says a meat-based meal generates 75% more greenhouse gas emissions than a plant-based alternative. So just shout out for me if you think that's true or false.
Yeah, probably right.
True.
True. Yeah, that one is true. The second statement is 40% of young adults do not know where milk comes from. Do you think that one is true or false?
Hopefully false.
Probably true.
Okay, so we've got a mix. So this actually, Philip, this came from a LEAF study that I found online that's from your organisation, and they did a study of 1,016 to 23-year-olds, and it actually came out that 40% of the people, the 1,000 people that they did that research on, did not know where milk came from. So that is really quite staggering, that one, isn't it? Okay, I'm going to show you another one. Only 8% of children eat 5 or more portions of fruit or veg a day. Do you think that is true or false?
True.
True. Yeah, unfortunately, that one is true as well. And another one, food production is responsible for 1/4 of the world's greenhouse gas emissions. Is that true or false?
Yes.
True.
True, yeah.
So around that.
Yeah, around that. Yeah, I mean, it's really difficult to completely quantify, isn't it? Because there's so many things that are linked to food production, and it's different research and different statistics takes different parts into consideration. But that seems to be the standard, most widely accepted one, that about a quarter. You might be starting to see a pattern emerge. So we'll get through the next two. We've got 1 in 10 people in the UK do not know how to cook a meal from scratch.
True.
That is also true.
More than that, but
yeah, someone else said that as well. And then in the UK, we have 4% of people who are vegan, 7% are vegetarian, and 4% are pescatarian. So out of those, is there anything that anybody thinks it really is indicative of a shortfall in education?
I think the fruit and veg one, probably. I think the school meals, definitely. Especially, I know it's said primary school before, but particularly in secondary schools.
Yeah.
and also not knowing how to cook a meal from scratch, so they cooking.
And the milk one for me as well, it just shows how disconnected we are from where our food comes from.
Yeah, that I was when I was doing the research for that, even I was shocked at that statistic, and I've started asking people. There was some other ones as well that was 1 in 10 people thought that bacon was made of wheat, and a really high percentage of people thought that eggs were something that grew as well as a plant, and things that we take so for granted but are actually across the whole population, just they're not the same. So right, brilliant. So I think that a reason why we're all here as well is we really do agree that food education is so important. There are so many other things that come off that, and education in schools is not doing what it needs to be doing to give the pupils and then the future adults the education that they need to be able to make informed choices in their diet.
Lizzie, can I just mention somebody's popped in the chat a question? Will they get a copy of the slides?
Yeah, at the end, I'll send a copy of the slides. I'll send links to all of the statistics that I share and all of the resources, and you'll get everything basically that's included in this, and a link to the recording as well. So I'm going to pass to Sue now to talk about sustainable education through maths.
Lovely, thank you. So I'll just read this bit through for you. The Energy Heroes maths lessons are engaging hands-on activities through which we aim to inspire young learners to understand the importance of low carbon living and its crucial role in shaping a sustainable future. So we go into primary schools, we do a whole school assembly where we talk very much about climate change and how electricity and heat is related to that, but also how we show them that 20% of all greenhouse gases are from agriculture and land. And then we do a maths lesson work. We do a little audit of the school with the children as well, looking at their energy in and out of the building. We believe that climate change and sustainability can sit squarely within a core subject of the primary curriculum. So we're going to share a few examples of how food sustainability can be explored in maths. We also, I'll show you some more resources later, but these are ones that are linked particularly to maths. So there's a series of maths starters, 3 of which are linked to food. So this one would have questions like which foods create the most greenhouse gas emissions? How much more CO2 does beef produce than cheese per kilogram? Or how much CO2 does beef produce than root vegetables per kilogram? And then you might ask children to think about a favourite meal and calculate the carbon dioxide created by its production, and then swap some of the food items for more plant-based ones and recalculate the CO2 per kilogram. So there's a lot of talking and looking and unpicking the data, but there's lots and lots of questions you can get out of that for them. And the next one is looking at the whole food system. There are 2, you would explain to pupils that there are 2 different comparisons here. So two different groups have come up with some figures. They're slightly different to each other, but one of them also includes the post-retail carbon dioxide production. And you might ask questions like, find the average tonnes of CO2 emissions from the land use section of the 2 charts, or now find the average in tonnes for agricultural production and supply chain. So they're adding the 2 and dividing by 2. Why do you think the agricultural production figure is so high? Where does the CO2 come from in animal farming? Oh, sorry, where does the CO2 come from? These charts show the CO2 emissions from agricultural production. What is the other greenhouse gas produced by farming animals? Very importantly, find out how powerful a greenhouse gas this is. So there's a lot in there. It's going to be Key Stage 2 and above, looking at those really. So if we go on to the next slide, you can see our website. So we go into schools and we deliver a core maths program, which is what those blue bits are at the top. So if you went on our website and clicked on all resources, you would see the blue bit at the top. You'd scroll down, and underneath that is the maths starters that you can see there, where those little images are. And the 3 on the right hand side are all to do with food. But we also have other curriculum resources for other subjects and general discussion starters, because we also believe in embedding climate change and sustainability throughout the primary curriculum, not just in maths. So that's free for anybody to use.
Thank you so much, Sue. I think this is something we feel so passionately about, that we teach children these math skills that they need to know that's part of the national curriculum, but we can choose the context of how to deliver that, and we can really make that relevant and meaningful by including topics such as sustainability. So thank you for showing us those, Sue. I'm now going to pass to our first guest speaker, Ama Chaney, to talk about Grow to School.
Are you in control? Oh, you are in control of the slides.
Yeah,
Thank
if
you.
you just let me know when you want to go on to the next slide. If I'm not getting it.
As I said at the beginning, I'm Ama Chaney, founder and managing director of Grow to School. Move on to the next one. So here we work with schools to develop the teaching and learning. So we always ensure we're working with the teachers as well through modelling and showing how we work with whole classes outside, linking food growing nature and the curriculum outside. So today, really, I just wanted to share how food growing can be a powerful tool to teach sustainability and climate content in primary schools, and how the Grow Bag, our food growing package, does just that. So here on this slide, it's all mostly about the context of food growing in terms of sustainability and what children can learn from doing, and from engaging with food growing in school settings. So obviously there's seasonality and food miles, and thinking about the fact that you can go pretty much to the supermarket any time of the year and buy what you want. For example, they've got a bowl of strawberries there and you can buy them in the winter, but how does that connect with really what's going on outside and in real life and in farming for children? So thinking we explore the soil. The soil is obviously, we all know, the basis of everything, of all plants and life on earth, really, and the value and how to conserve that of soil. We teach them about water conservation, collecting rainwater, how to water, even basic things, how to water, and the importance of watering at the right time of the day, why that's important, how that connects to the curriculum. Thinking about biodiversity, and I put place in nature because helping children to understand they are part of biodiversity, they're part of nature, they are part of this system, and it's not just about having a bee patch, it's more, and where they fit in that. Obviously composting promotes reducing and reuse. Links of food, so linking both sides of the hatch in a school kitchen, thinking about food, where it comes from, and the food that you have on your plate. And that is something that, as Lizzie highlighted in those slides earlier, how far we are removed from the food that we eat, how far we don't think about where it's actually coming from. And obviously being outside, engaging with the environment, it brings around healthier bodies and minds for children. So here I wanted to highlight that we have done a lot of work with schools, understanding the barriers they have for taking children outside for learning, for food growing, and these are some of the highlights that they have come back to us with, that they often come to us to help them build their capacity to achieve. So, time and capacity for staff to actually deliver it in a busy curriculum. Training and expertise, that's mainly around confidence, because teachers actually, it's not that complicated. I think it is about making them feel more confident, particularly with the Grow Bag. It is an absolute step-by-step guide. Money is a massive issue in schools at the moment, but the Grow Bag is very cheap, and I keep talking about that. But actually, food growing in schools can be doesn't have to be an expensive addition. Inconsistent use. So lots of schools come to us, we've got a growing space, we don't know what to do with it. We used to have a TA or a teacher who led it, and they did amazing things, and now it's just covered in stinging nettles. What do we do now? So that is a massive barrier and an issue. Curriculum pressures, again, you can link so well what you're doing in the garden to pretty much any aspect of the curriculum. We've chosen science as a key driver because the links are really explicit, but actually anything from maths to science to English can all be taught outside. And inclusion and accessibility. So thinking about how you can support your SEMH or your SEND learners in an outdoor environment, and it's really perfect for that sort of nurture and more one-to-one learning. So I just wanted to highlight those. And here we are. We've got the grow bag, and I have just put here, it's affordable timescale, easy to follow, but we've got three components to it, and which work across primary, early years, and the mini is kind of like a starter kit for schools that don't want to use just a small amount of space, but still want the children to see that kind of seed to plate journey. So yeah, and just understanding, helping the Grow Bag Toolkit is there to help schools understand better how they can utilize their outdoor spaces. Can we go to the next one? Oh, I just put this quote in because I thought it was so applicable to what we're talking about here and about climate. But this head teacher, and actually we've been working with the school for like 10 years or something like that, and just his perspective of how that climate anxiety and the risk of leaving young children, people with a sense of helplessness, and how small actions and actually getting in there with your hands can be so empowering for young people, well, and for adults, to be quite honest. But we're talking about children here. So the next one, I don't expect you to read all of this because it, but I just wanted to highlight that the Grow Bag Toolkit provides all the growing guides, the plants and seeds, but key to linking the garden with the curriculum. We've written primary key stage 1 and 2 scheme of work linking to the science curriculum, but also a set of season activities that links to the early years framework. So it's really comprehensive. And you can see there that it pretty much covers anything that you might want to do in the garden, obviously including growing. So yeah, next slide, please. Oh, okay. So I didn't want to just talk at you. We do these games. We've got a whole set of games which are part of the pause activities, which look at tool use, look at composting, and one of them is pest and pals. And I'm sure these will be really easy, but I wanted you to think about whether or not these creatures in the garden are pest and pals. So again, shout out if you know, because lots of children don't. So cats,
Pest.
Pest.
absolutely a pest. Hedgehogs,
Friend.
Friend, pal.
absolutely, and our friend the snail.
I
Both.
don't know.
Got a role in the ecosystem.
They are, but I don't want them in my allotment. I don't know about you, but and the next one, obviously, quite they're bats,
How?
definitely. Cabbage white butterflies,
Both?
How?
pest.
Yeah,
Most butterflies are really useful, obviously because they're pollinators. But cabbage whites can decimate your whole brassica crop by the time you go out the next day. So
I just say
not
this,
them themselves,
Emma?
the caterpillars. So
Sorry to interrupt. It's really, really good timing because I've just been watching a squirrel eating my raspberries out the window and I can't do anything about it.
yeah, that's very frustrating.
We need to grow some for us and some for them, don't we?
Yeah.
We do. We definitely do. And you do anyway in an organic garden, don't you? I mean, you can't really stand out there all day making sure you've got every snail or slug out of there. So, yeah, I didn't know whether anyone would have any questions or whether there'd be time at the end for any questions. Has anyone got anything burning?
The resources look great, but I just looked on your website and obviously there is a cost associated, and us schools have got no money.
Yes. Well, I mean, yeah, though they have little money, but it depends on how they value what they're learning.
Yeah.
And sadly, we don't have any central funding to offer it for free, but we do have occasionally we do get funding. We're working with did you say you were in Leeds?
Yes.
We're working with 10 primary schools as a result of some funding from the Adina Trust next academic year. So we do get funding, and it depends on the value schools see of getting their children outside. So
Thank you so much, Emma. I would say we need to push on, but if anyone does have any other questions, either at the end or pop them in the chat.
oh yeah,
I
just
love.
wanted to say that I just one last thing is to leave you with is sustainable food education doesn't need to be complex. It just needs to be real, practical, and connected to the lives of young learners. So I think that there is so much to be learned from a garden, but also just to leave you with, if anybody wants to connect or collaborate on any initiatives, then please do get in touch, and my contact details are
Thank you so much, and I love that little game. Thank you. I need to learn more about pests and pals in the garden, I think.
there.
Thank you. We're now going to move on to Martin from ProVeg.
Hello there. You'll all have to excuse me. I'm at the train station, and unbelievably, like the biggest train and noisiest train just pulled up behind me. But it's leaving in like 40 seconds, so hopefully we're going to be okay. Yes, I'm Martin. I'm from ProVeg. We have a school plates program in the UK, and what we do is we kind of look at catering. So we look at school food catering, but education as well. So we kind of link the two things together. And firstly, and also, is we're fully funded. So we are donor funded. So everything we provide to schools is free. So that lady that said about sort of school budgets are tight, they can always use that as an excuse with us because we are free. And that goes for pretty much everything we do. Our main aim, as you can see here, is just to make school food healthier and more sustainable. And the simple way we kind of do that is through just reducing animal products on menus. We have to work within school food standards, which is difficult because of the rules and the laws all around that. But we're working on that, and the current government are a lot more open to the future and how things are different now from when they were before. So hopefully that will change the way that schools can work. You can see since 2018, we've kind of grown. So we began in 2018. And we do work with lots of schools. You can see all the numbers there. I'm sure you can read those. And we are sort of slowly growing our impact across the country, and all those little dots and little pins are growing day by day. So we work across the UK as well. And actually we'll come to a sort of special marking on there a little bit later. Thank you. This is kind of the main, simple, really basic slide that we can kind of use to show about school food. You can see sort of the climate footprint there of a meat-based meal, a vegetarian meal, and then the plant-based meal, and kind of seeing really visually, I was in a school today just showing children this. It's for everybody. So people know this. Now it's kind of a thing about what we can actually do about it, really. And that's kind of hopefully where ProVeg come in. Lovely. Next slide. Super. So this is kind of what we do. So we have lots of services. As I said, we are all donor funded. So this is all free. So we work with caterers on their catering. So we do menu consultation. So we don't provide the food. We work with caterers to help them with the food they already provide. So we do menu consultation, which works on things like the positioning of meals. Often, I'm sure in your schools, the meat option is always that top choice, always top of the menu. And whereas that doesn't have to be the case, that's how it's always been. Doesn't mean it always needs to be like that. We look at the language of menus so that an amazing Sri Lankan coconut creamy chicken curry isn't up against veggie curry, which obviously sounds completely nowhere near as good. So we talk about the language, and when we work on labeling as well. We also do recipes. So if caterers say, well, we don't know what to cook, we actually have our own recipes that they can use. They are all nutritionally assessed. They all work within school food standards. We also do training as well. So we will go into schools and train chefs, cooks, whoever works in the kitchen. And we're working on e-learning as well. It's not always easy to get into schools, and their kitchens are often very busy. So we're currently creating an e-learning course to teach them more about the different techniques, different recipes, different ingredients they may have never had before. Unbelievable. Now there's like a massive, container one going by. And we also do awards. Schools love awards. This has been a really sort of novel thing that we've used recently to actually engage schools, is they can get awards and work through awards by making the changes. As they make more changes, they go through the awards, bronze, silver, up to gold. We have a support network. So we often have online meetings, webinars, and we support schools through the process and cater through the process. And kind of a new thing, which is where I've come in particularly in the organisation, is the education. So we've always changed the menus, but children don't understand the changes on the menus and actually the impact the different foods have. Kind of negates that slightly. So we now have our own kind of education program that works and actually then can teach children about their food, about the impact that their choices have, really. And that's where our next slide will come in, hopefully. So we have canteen to classroom. So obviously we've been changing our menus and changing school food, but we wanted to sort of teach children a little bit more about it, which is so important. So we've created a canteen to classroom program. So it's an education program. The next slide might sort of explain that a little bit more as go. So yeah, we've created lessons for schools, for teachers to use, and also ones that can be easily done within the classroom and with simple ingredients. They don't always involve cooking. I think sometimes there's these fantastic ideas, but schools, I worked in a school, like budgets are tight. So we needed to make it easy that any school could run with this and take this on. All the lessons are there. So there's lesson plans, there's lesson presentations, there's resources, everything a teacher needs. It's almost ready to go. We do school visits. I do go into school. Here's a few pictures of some of the things we get up to and some of the recipes and the menus. But it's sort of easy thing for schools to take. And as I said, we are donor funded, luckily. So everything is there free for schools to use. And it fits well with changes that they maybe want to make on their climate action plans around reducing their carbon footprint. This sort of feeds into it because to get the children to choose those options, they need to be educated around them. Next slide is always the important one because whenever we talk to people, there's always the yeah, but. So there's a few things you can see here about all the challenges that we all have to face in this sort of sector. First of all, about who sets and delivers the menus within schools. Often people say, well, we're already in a contract. So that doesn't matter because we will work with anybody at any stage they're at. So if your school already has a contract, that's fine. We work with large multinational catering companies. We also work with small, tiny little village schools where it's all done in-house. So we will work with anybody and wherever they are. Staff engagement. Often we hear, oh, well, the chefs have the same thing forever. And I think sometimes we need to not make assumptions on that. And sometimes people are ready to change and willing to change if you educate them and explain why the change is coming in. Also, we provide a training. So if it's a training issue, we can help out with that. Parent pupil readiness. Again, schools are often afraid to maybe change because of what the parents or the pupils might find. And we've found in the schools that we work with actually don't make that assumption. You will sometimes get a parent that's loud about things, but often actually when you go out there and speak to all of them, you find that one loud one is the minority. And a lot of parents just want their children to have healthy food. And if it just so happens it's saving the planet and a bit more planet friendly, then that's an extra bonus too. Unfamiliarity with our new ingredients. So the way we work is we try and create familiar dishes that the children would know already, but just kind of pack them more with a few more plants. So things like spaghetti bolognese, lasagnas, everything like that, that children would recognize visually or it's even the language of it. They just try and get a few more plants in there and just to boost the fiber and things like that. So that's what we kind of do with that. Procurement, but it's anything. Where there's demand, supply always follows. And also people say, well, it's expensive. Vegetables, beans and pulses, which can make up the majority of a school menu, are not expensive items. They're easy items to get hold of and they're not expensive. Certainly no more expensive than chicken or beef or pork. And the last one, kind of what I work on particularly, is around the curriculum and school priorities. I know we spoke about that earlier. Everything that we've done, all our curriculum is linked to the national curriculum standards. So there's science, there's maths, there's DT, there's geography. So everything has a subject. It's not just in there for something nice to do. It's actually linked to the core. But also climate education is so important now. Hopefully with a curriculum review, it will be more in there. And sort of green skills and the jobs, they are the future. There's sort of a big statistic about the jobs that we're training our children for now won't even exist in the future. And the jobs that will exist, they're not being trained for now. So we need to kind of get that together. And I just wanted to finish with a few success stories. So this is a success menu from Waltham Forest Catering, which is near where I live. So I'm always big to push them. They work within the school fee standards. So they only have 2 fully plant-based days. but they work very much on the positioning. So a lot of times the veggie option is at the top of the menu, just by default. That is their default. Some of the language they use in their menus fantastic. And they just have great options. It isn't just corn nuggets. That's not the easy way. They actually cook their food, and there's some great options on there. The vegetable curry mixed rice. They have jollof rice, pulled barbecue jackfruits. They've got really good options that children want to choose, whether they're vegan, vegetarian, pescatarian. They just like them. So next slide, please. This is the pilot we recently did in Carryduff, which is actually Northern Ireland. So it's a heavy farming-based community. And they did something called blending, which is something we're beginning to work more in, where they're just reducing the meat content and replacing it with plant proteins, whether that's lentils or chickpeas. And it's been really successful. To start with, they sort of gradually have made changes, and they've actually found that the children love it, and they're gradually making more changes. As you can see the graph, they've been able to reduce the saturated fat, make big carbon savings, and also get fibre into children. We often hear the argument of protein, but actually fibre is the biggest deficiency in children and adults, to be fair, as well. So small changes, big impact. And another thing we've recently launched, I think we're sort of small, we've launched our contract caterer rankings. So we have ranked the 25 largest contract caterers in school food, and actually we now rank them on their climate and sustainability and health credentials. And gradually more and more of those are engaging with us and embracing sustainability, not just paying a bit of lip service to it. It's becoming a much bigger thing in the news, in the media, and actually now I think caterers are catching on as well. So if you're interested, our website's there, our email's there. I said we kind of cover school food from it coming into the building, to being cooked in the building, to being eaten in the building, and to be learnt about in the building. And we'd love to hear from any of you that sort of want to know more information, really.
Thank you so much, Martin. I mean, I know not everyone's a stat person, but I find stats really helpful. And that graph, just by reducing the meat by 25%, that 80+ increase in fibre and 20% reduction in CO2, just by changing 25% of the menu, I think really speaks volumes. And that menu you showed us as well, look, God, I want to go and eat at that school. The food looks so good. Thank you so much. Thank you. So Sue's just going to share a couple of other organisations that people might be interested to know about.
Hi, thank you. Yeah. Just wondering if Martin could look at the question from Sunita in the chat while I'm talking. So yeah, Energy Heroes.
I'm on it.
Brilliant. Well done. Energy Heroes, ProVeg, and Go to School we've talked about already. So if you go on to the next slide, we could recommend Incredible Edible Network. Groups work with schools and their gardening clubs to pass on skills and get them growing. They've got a really good little tagline, which is "If you eat, you're in," which is great. I love that. School Food for Change is an EU-funded project which sets out to redefine what it means to eat healthily and sustainably at school, while also addressing food education at several levels. So that's a good one. We Love Living is part of the Permaculture Association, and they give advice on supporting soil health, growing regeneratively, and making compost. Yeah, they're based on the 7 domains of permaculture action. So there's a lot in there, but it's really interesting stuff. MEE, Ministry of Eco Education, who are have lots and lots of brilliant curriculum stuff. Let's Go Zero, I think somebody mentioned earlier as well, who are very big in schools at the moment to do with energy, as well as looking at getting schools working more sustainably. And then we've got Season Well, and I think Season Well have there are local sections of Season Well as well, so that's a really good one to look at and see if there's anybody in your area with any advice and support from them. So yeah, we recommend all of those.
Thank you.